The first rule that is required for anybody who's paying attention to what's going on, especially politics, and I'm going to presume that this is brand new for you. I'm going to presume this because I'm running into people that I know, people I've known all my life. I don't think they've ever followed anything politically in their life. I don't think they understand. Not only that, I don't think they understand anything about anything. And I know that sounds a bit much, but it's the truth. First and foremost, let me talk about a couple of things here. Number one, I want to just jump to this. President Trump has done something which I have been wanting him to do for the longest time, and that is to embrace the notion of social media. And there are some people that I really like who are very, very good. And this might surprise you. Lex Friedman, whom we will discuss, Joe Rogan, Piers Morgan, great. Not for information. Piers Morgan is Geraldo Rivera, is Morton Downey Jr. He's not a Larry King. Larry King was great because he got out of the way. Larry King and Lex Friedman are the same. Joe Rogan, you tune in Joe Rogan for Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is very, very unique. Larry King was one of the greats during his time because of what he did. He got out of the way. He got out of the way completely. I can't say this enough. He got out of the way. It wasn't about him. It was the guest. I've got the guest. He just did it. And you could say, some people said it was laziness. No. Listen to Uncle Lenny. Let me ask you a question. What do you do better, you, than anybody else that you know, or maybe in the country there? What is the one thing that you do that is heads and shoulders above everybody? What is it? What do you do? What? It's a tough thing to do. I mean, it's really, and the next question is, if you do it better than, most people, how many people would you have to sample before we found somebody better at this than you? Think about what I'm telling you. Would it be 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million? How really good are you at what you do? And the next thing is it significantly important societally? If this, sorry, I gotta get it. There we go. If this is for some reason important to you in society, if getting this particular sound means something, I am one of the few, because most people cannot do this. Most people could be 1 out of 10,000. There are people who make these, not only that, I can't do it. They'll just make noise. But I think you'll understand it. Barry Taylor says, I loved it when Don Rickles was on Larry King. That was pure magic because two people, it was just perfect. By the way, remember something too, Barry. A lot of times you can't explain why things are true. This is important. Very few people can do it. Is it of significance? No. Nolan Ryan was born with either rotator cuff or some kind of a shoulder, something or other, that didn't break, that elbows and shoulder. We would have thrown our arms out years ago. If it weren't for baseball, Nolan Ryan would be, robbing liquor stores or pumping gas or whatever. It's funny now we say pumping gas because now we have a lot of people pumping gas who are foreign and who maybe own the station, but in any event. So the first rule is, remember something. What do you really do well? I want you to think about this. What do you do well? Do you know it? Next rule is never tell anybody what you do. If they don't know it, it's not important. If you have to tell them, it's not important. Normally they'll tell you, oh, I know what you can do. Oh, I know what it is. Sometimes if it's a sports thing, you're not going to know. You might be a great cricket batter or whatever the hell they're called, and nobody knows it. So aside from that, okay. The secret to life, one of the many, many secrets, is to find out what you're really good at and exploit it and hope to God it's exploitable. Hope to God that enough people want to see what you're doing. Hope to God that enough people care about it or think it's important. Hope to God. Next rule is never do something that you wish you were good at and convince yourself that you are good at it. I've seen this more than any. There are people sometimes who look and they see themselves as being funny. Funny to them means everything. It's the most important thing in the world to them. And they will go and they say, I want to be a stand-up comedian. And I've heard it sometimes. You know where I've heard this kind of, believe me, I've got a real problem with, and I've met some of the strangest people, these stand-up comedians who are the most unfunny, unimaginative, and look at stand-up as a, not even as somebody who's out. George Carlin was somebody who I wish sometimes he would stop doing the routines. His views of life were just, he was hatched. He was from another world. Oscar Wilde and others as well. I keep mentioning Mitch Hedberg. Absolutely. But there were other people too who were just kind of shtick. Buddy Hackett, Jack Carter, Jan Murray. We can go through the list. I was watching a bunch. Don't ask me why. I'm into these rotations. All of a sudden I'll get into police cars, police chases, and police arrests and tasers and high speed chases, and then, like our friend Laurie Partridge watches Russian aircraft disasters, and then now I'm getting into these people who are the comedians, and I don't want to mention their names, but a couple, they're very good at being interviewed, but I've seen their quote sets. They're the most, to me, it's like, what made you think you were funny? Maybe you can just stand up there and just yell at people. They want more than anything else to be great comedians. And I don't understand it, but God, I don't understand Jackson Pollock either, but de Kooning, maybe not him. So the first rule is, remember, find out what you're really good at. Number two, hope to God that it's somehow recognizable and you can make some money at it. Thank God that what you're doing, like Nolan Ryan, if it wasn't for baseball, if you were born in Egypt, what good does this do? And the third thing is also, don't ever try to do something you're not good at. Sometimes you find yourself, you say, I'm really good at this. And I guess I'm sticking more to maybe show busy types of things. I don't know, because sometimes there are things you can really become, you can train well in. You can be a great urologist by virtue of training. You're not born to be a urologist, but you are. A major monumental thing happened as of recent times, and that is this thing. Fill in the shtick. Indeed. I think I know what you're talking about, but yes, that's what I'm saying in some respect. There's one fellow who is actually very, very funny. I'm not going to mention. I don't want to mention names because I kind of, some people I know. And if you're talking to him, he's really smart. But once he gets on that set, then he becomes a comedian. Then he does this thing. He does a joke like this. And I told this joke one time, and here's this joke. Can I tell you this joke? Okay, here's one of my jokes. So he is so and so. Remember the roast? If ever you want to see something which is the worst of the worst of the worst, the worst, the bottom, the nadir, here's the barrel, scraping the barrel, are the comedy set or whatever, the celebrity roasts that people did. Pat Cooper was the best roaster ever. He was always the closer. Don Rickles could kind of do it. But other people, Lisa Lampanelli, you were so gross that your blank looks like 4 miles. It's like this. No. Formulaic. It's not even, it doesn't even matter who it is. It's just who can be gross. Now, gross is great. I will really gross people out and never say an F word. Not because I'm that much of a genius, but if you really want to gross people out, if that's what you want to do, you're doing it the wrong way. You're doing it the hard way. You're doing it the usual way. If F-bombing, and I'll get to the point of today's show. F-bombing, by the way, is the worst crutch in the world. S-bombing, even funnier. S-bombs, very funny. Almost, that is the most versatile word there is. Okay. In the past couple of years, decade, people have risen to the top. Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, others, whatever. And because I don't find them interesting does not mean they're not interesting. It just means I just don't find them interesting. I think there is an art to fried chicken. I have not had fried chicken in, I don't know, 15 years, 17 years. I have no idea. Doesn't mean that. So you see what I'm saying? Okay. Lex Friedman is today the Larry King. Lex Friedman is one of my heroes. First of all, Lex Friedman is as interesting as, I don't want to say a wet fart, but he is complete. I would say when I first saw him, I would say, like most people do, oh, he's one of the, and they always say Asperger's, spectrum. Maybe he is. I don't know. Flat affect, no emotion, non-emotive. And what do you think is the reason for that? Wears the black suit, and I love it. Think about it. Black suit, black tie, kind of the institutional haircut, like the mental hospital haircut. And he talks like that. And the problem is when you, and here's a guy I thought he's talking the best I've ever, he's talking to particle physicists. His stuff on artificial intelligence it's just next to, it's perfect. Why? It's because the guest, he gets out of the way. Same thing with Rogan. But what they both have in common, more than anything else, and Larry King did this, which is what Piers Morgan doesn't, because here Piers Morgan is schmaltz. Piers Morgan is he's a wrestling promoter. It's a work, but he's very good at it. Lex Friedman really is truly, seriously, and Rogan too, seriously fascinated by the person they're talking. Fascinated. You never feel like, oh, he's just phoning this in. He's just. Joe Rogan can talk about, and how did they move the boulders or the blocks to make the pyramid? And if this swampland, and if the Benchuca from the island of Trinidad in the Moluccas does in fact pose the most poisonous bite, then then he's got Joey Diaz, who is miraculously fascinating because he's a Cuban. I know these people, but he is the degenerate who has an impish kind of a winking charm. Like, it just works. Others, to me, numbers mean nothing. Numbers mean absolutely nothing. Don't ask me what makes a good show. There were some shows that, hi, welcome to Appalachian Cooking. Today we're going to make crumb cake. And it's this woman in this thing, and she has like four followers. I'm thinking this is the most brilliant thing. I'd put her on in a minute because it's kitschy, it's weird, and I don't know what's good and what's not. Why am I talking about that? Why? Why am I talking about Lex Friedman? Why? This. Right here. This is why.
Speaking of marijuana, let me ask you.
Speaking of marijuana, he's on with Trump. I don't know why that cracks me up. Speaking of rectal prolapse, speaking of pilonidal cysts, speaking of Margaret Hamilton, I love it. This is not a non sequitur, but that just cracks me up. But listen to this.
Speaking of marijuana, let me ask you about my good friend Joe Rogan. So you had a bit of tension with him. So
I like this. This is called Bringing the Heat. I love this. Bringing heat. This is good. This is when Trump is the best. Trump is the best. Now look at Trump. Look at the way Trump looks. He's talking to a man with a bad buzz cut in a black suit who looks like a mortician's assistant at some Route 3 funeral home, okay? But he's interested because Trump realizes this guy's got more people watching than anybody else. Watch this.
When he said nice things about RFK Jr., I think you've said some not so nice things about Joe, and I think that was a bit unfair. And as a
Lex, please call Bringing Heat. Come on, Rex doesn't understand wrestling. Rex is too young. Rex doesn't understand Gordon Solie, Dusty Rhodes, Eddie Graham, Ric Flair, Heat, heels, baby faces. No. This is where we got to show him how to do this.
Fan of Joe, I would love to see you do his podcast because he is legit the greatest conversationalist in the world.
Now listen to this guy talking about great conversation. Remember, Lex Friedman. I love Lex Friedman. I love him. The man is, I swear to God, Lex Friedman might be, in terms of style, he says interesting things because he talks to interesting people. He's in the wet fart category, but he's great. What Lex Friedman, always tell people, could reverse teen pregnancy by describing the sex act. And there are few people who can do this. And then the man becomes tumescent, and the both corpus cavernosa become engorged through tumescence and turgidity by virtue of extravasation from the spongiform into the erectile penis. The glands, as well as the bulbourethral raphe, retract. Epididymis becomes. I mean, he people say, you know what? Forget it. I'm not interested. No, I'm talking about sex. No, it's okay. It's okay. He could. I mean, the man will be like human saltpeter, just nothing. But he would be talking to somebody who would make it interesting, and that's his genius, I think.
So what's the story behind the tension?
I don't think there was any tension, and I've always liked him, but I don't know him. I mean,
good.
I only see him when I walk into the arena with Dana,
right?
And I shake his hand.
Thank you. For
I see him there, and I think he's good at what he does, but I don't know about doing his podcast. I mean, I guess I'd do it, but I haven't been asked, and I'm not asking them.
Right.
I'm not asking anybody.
It sounds like a challenging negotiation situation.
No, it's not. It's not really a negotiation. And he's sort of a liberal guy, I guess, from what I understand. But he likes Kennedy. This was before I found this out, before Kennedy came in with us. He's going to be great. Bobby's going to be great. But I like that he likes Kennedy. I do too. He's a different kind of a guy, but he's got some great things going. And I think he's going to be beyond politics. I think he could be quite influential in taking care of some situations that you probably would agree should be taken care of.
Now, I have no idea what that means, but it doesn't really matter. This is the genius. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the future. Strike that. This is now. I would tell my friend, little background here. One of my great buddies in the world was a fellow named Jerry Wexler. Jerry Wexler had the greatest vocabulary of anybody I've ever known. Jerry Wexler was the founder of Atlantic Records, one of the founders with Nestle and with Ahmet Ertegun. He personally handled Aretha Franklin. He was part of the Muscle Shoals team. Just go back and read any of the he was. And he and I became great friends. And he and I would talk about, oh my God, about Dylan and about Lenny Bruce. He knew everybody. And for some reason, he moved to Sarasota. It was like Siesta Key at the time, and he used to listen to me, and we became friends. And it's so funny, when I first heard his name, I didn't know who he was. I never heard of him. I had my friend Nat Adderley. Nat Adderley is Cannonball Adderley's brother. Nat Adderley, oh God, sack of woe, the great. Nat was born in Tampa, great blues man, a jazz man. Nat's answering machine would be like this: beep, all right, okay, beep. That's it. I don't know what that meant, but that's the way it was. So one day he was on my show. And Nat was just this okay. And his friend Gooseby Jones. Oh, great people. Anyway. It was during a time of radio when it was a time of everything was just exploding. It was when talk radio was really great. It was really great. Now it's just, anyway. So one day I was on with Nat, and Nat says, hey, can I see what you've got? I said, yeah. I said, here's the screen, and these are the callers. And he said, okay. And he goes on this, and he goes, wait a minute. He goes, Jerry Wexler. Do you know, is that the Jerry Wexler? I said, who's Jerry Wexler? He says, who's Jerry Wexler? I said, I never heard of him. I knew of Ahmet Ertegun. I knew Atlantic and Atco and Iron Butterfly, but what related to Aretha and Muscle Shoals? I'm sorry, it wasn't my thing. He says, we'll put him on next. I said, okay. So we put him on to Jerry, you're on with Jerry Wexler. He goes, Jerry, Nat. And Nat's eyes. This man, he never gets excited about it. He's known everybody. Thelonious Monk, he knows everybody. And his eyes are bugging out. I said, Jerry Wexler. I just didn't know. I'm sorry. So I got his number, and I'm talking to Wexler on the side, off the air. I said, so, he says, you don't know who I am, do you? I said, honestly, no, because I don't lie to people. He said, wow. I said, let me ask you, Jerry. I said, if, who could you get on the phone? This is me just like in the studio. There was no internet. I'm not looking his name up. I don't know who he is. Who could you get on the phone? He said, Mick Jagger, you know him? I said, of course I know Mick Jagger. So Jerry always wanted to kind of he said, I can't believe it. You're the only one who's not kissing my ass. I said, I'm not. I was on the phone with him a couple of times. You know how they have call waiting, beep, sorry, I got to go. It says Etta James. Ever hear about her? Etta James called. Steve Winwood called one time, and I'm talking to him. I said, well, you tell Steve Winwood from me. Tell that son of a bitch, I'm on the phone. Okay, call me back. And he would, oh my God. So, why am I saying this? Jerry Wexler heard Aretha Franklin. Took Aretha Franklin to Muscle Shoals. Jerry Wexler didn't play any instrument. He just is this. He had a New York Jewish voice. Sounds exactly like Leonard Susskind, the physicist. Exactly. Anyway, so he brought her up. And he said, okay. And he looks at her and he says, take us to church. And she was doing these songs that just never caught on. And he said, no. Take us to church. She says, what are you talking about? He says, play the piano. So she gets a piano. Her piano playing was out of this world, like Nat King Cole. Nat King Cole was one of the greatest piano players ever. But you don't think of him that way. All right, he sits down. And the Muscle Shoals guys listen to her and they say, oh my God, that's it. And this blues person, this R&B, by the way, Jerry Wexler named it R&B. He worked at Billboard. They used to call it race music. He named it rhythm and blues. That was his concoction, if you will. He heard her. He said, take us to church because of her gospel. And gospel turned into R&B, and R&B turned into this and this, and he knew it. And nobody could touch her. And she Why am I saying this? Because Lex Friedman and Trump and Joe Rogan, the greats, know what they do. And they never budge. And if you like them, great. If you don't, what are you going to do? He's not trying to imitate. Maybe in the old days, maybe I can see sometimes Joe's stand up. I've seen it. It's okay. Nothing even remotely noteworthy. But maybe he's trying too hard. Maybe he goes to these clubs and he wants to be like this guy and sound like this guy. I don't know. I don't know what the hell the story. I have no idea what he's doing. Maybe he wasn't like I was raised with Larry King, David Susskind, and the others. Maybe I'm sort of, because the guys I thought were geniuses were people like Ernie Kovacs and Jack Parr and others. Those are the best. He went and he told people how to speak. Laurie Cut, by the way, says your man Dom Luker was on site Chirac yesterday, met with a room full of black Trump supporters. Oh, Dom Luker is superb. He is, again, he is a, how do I say this? He's transcendental. He's somebody who just fits perfectly. He is great. Absolutely. He's so smart. So smart. He gets it. Ryan says, we have Harris spending money campaigning in New Hampshire, Virginia, and Minnesota this week, and David Plouffe for Plouffe, advisor to the campaign, saying Kamala's path is extremely difficult, but doable. Sounds like those internals are brutal. Ryan, don't believe anything you say from any of these people. Don't understand any of it. Don't believe anything you hear anybody say. Not yet. No, what is he going to say? What is he going to, what are you listening to? I mean, it sounds interesting. I appreciate that. So the thing I'm going to go, the reason for this, 27 minutes I'm into this, and you're wondering, is he going to get to the point? I'm going to get to the point. My point is a long intro. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, building up to the story. They didn't start off the Godfather with shooting Salazzo right away. It would make no sense. Donald Trump needs to be brought back, pulled apart from these people. The same thing with Lex Friedman, same thing with Joe Rogan. I don't think they needed as much. And you've got to sit down, and somebody needs to sit there and say, now let's take an assessment. What is it that you really do well? They never did this. Everybody in talk radio always wanted to change you. Everybody in talk radio always wanted to change you. Everybody. They always did. It was the damnedest thing. They hire you, they bring you up, and the first thing they want to do is they want to tell you, they want to team you with somebody. They do whatever it is. Sometimes they're right. There are some people who are absolute successes that I will never, ever, ever, ever understand why some people are great, some people aren't. I don't know. I'm not even going to talk about the metrics of it. What Donald Trump does is if you let Donald Trump be like he is with Lex Friedman, you will like him. You will like him. I don't want them to hear you, Mr. President. I want them to like you. And they will only like you if they see you in the best possible light. It's not you're not the most brilliant speaker. You're not the most, no, he does a performance that nobody's been able to do. But he does that only for people that like him. Right? But then again, that's true with most people. Taylor Swift, a lot of people who go see Taylor Swift, I think that's what, by the way, the Taylor Swift thing's over with. It's over. It's done. She milked it. God bless her. But it's everything, stones are different. Stones are different. We're looking at something right now, my friends, which is the most important, We have a group of people. This is 62 days away. And I'm going to tell you something right now. And I want you to listen to me. If Paul McCartney were to announce that he is playing somewhere, he will fill the arena because it's Paul McCartney. They love Paul McCartney. They remember Paul McCartney. He doesn't put out a new song in 25 years. His song Freedom after 9/11 was one of the worst songs ever. It doesn't matter. It's Paul McCartney. Period. You want to discuss why? Good for you. He was a Beatles. Yes. I don't know. That's just the way it is. Not everybody's going to the Paul McCartney concert. A lot of them are, but not everybody. Not everybody. Let me ask you something. Not to be sacrilegious, but if you found out Jesus Christ was coming to the MetLife Stadium, you would see people, the whole world would show up, right? The whole world to see Jesus Christ. I'm not trying to be sacrilegious. I mean it. The Jesus Christ, I'm going. The whole world will be there. So it's possible the whole world didn't show up for Paul McCartney, but a lot did because they like him. Same thing with Trump. They like him. They want to go see him. They want to be a part of the thing. They want to go to a concert. They want to hear it. They love him. He's able to connect it. I swear to God, I don't know why. What is he? What politicians don't do that. They're not famous. I've never seen anything like this. Not even Reagan. Trump is a rock star for Trump people. But what about people who don't like him? That's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm interested in. And when he speaks, do you know, and I know this is not in any way meant as a comparison in the least, okay? So think of it what you may, what you must. But do you know there were no known available recordings of Hitler speaking in a normal voice? Did you know that? Did you ever hear this story? Did you hear this story? It's the truth. There never were any how do I say this? Recordings, except for one. It's the rarest. And was it Hugo Gans or whatever his name was, who was doing that famous Hitler piece? He said, I only have Hitler yelling. When he I forget the story. It was a railroad, like a special car. This guy wired this. I don't know if they found the guy, killed the guy, Finland or something. Who knows? But you hear him speaking, and he sounds so normal. It's not even funny. He's got a real deep voice, and he's talking about, well, the Russians are tough. They got a lot of tanks. The Russian oil's tough. The Russians. If you got oh my God, he's normal. The first thing you think of is he sounds like a normal person, because you think of this guy as he's got to be crazy. He's got to be crazy. He's got to be walking around, kill them, killing people. No, he's not. He's just Trump. When he sits and just talks, because you got to get people to like you today. Something to do with the issues. We live in a Larry Tate world, Mad Men. We're selling not stories, not positions. It's likability. It's weird. And we're only looking to the people who represent the undecided and the independents. Evan Webb says, you are one of the few that takes a long time to make a point that I like to listen to. What I do not like, the ego of those who claim to always be right. Too much ego is a turnoff. Balance needed. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. Lori Cuck said, stash isn't so crazy on regular speed. JS, I have no idea what that means, but I'm not going to figure it out. But thank you. If anybody can provide a translation, let me know, please. The thing that gets me today, we don't speak to crowds. We don't have stentorian crowds. Do you know that during the time of Abraham Lincoln blew their minds because they said, you can't go out and campaign. They said, what? You can't, dude, literally, you can't campaign. What do you mean I can campaign? You can't do this. Why can't I do this? What are you talking about? I can't do this. What does that mean? Because in the old days, they came to you. Laurie says, mustache and just saying, LOL. Okay. I guess. Solid. Abraham, and thank you. Abraham Lincoln said, I'm going to go out and ask people for a vote. They said, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't? You can't, dude. No. You can't do that. Well, I think I can. Well, you can't. But he did. Then there were people who put up pictures. They had the old days. He had like actual pictures, photos, and then you could post them. FDR did something who said, I'm going to do the fireside chat. You can't do that. The president, what are you, on a radio? What are you, so pedestrian? This is the most patrician. We are in the world of, somebody said one time, in Bollywood, in India, all of the, you want to see pictures, movies? Oh my God. We can't get near them. The Bollywood stars there are nothing like anything you can get near here. There's no words on a lot of these posters because of the illiteracy rates. I don't know about now, but then. So they just put up posters. And people would come out because they were trying to sell a movie with just pictures. That's it. The first thing in the world I would want to tell President Trump is you've got to be yourself. You act like that. Lex Friedman brings it up. The moon, the darkness, the sound, the American flag, whatever it is. Friedman just does it. He just, hearing two people talk. It sounds in a weird way. I don't want to compare him to Hitler, but it's like Hitler's voice. It's like, you realize these people are normal. They're just regular people. Trump's not this whatever this is, mean, nasty person. Raul says, Aretha says, I never loves a man the way I loved you. Thank you. She also said it's time to get greasy or greasy. Norma says the dumbing down of our nation is showing. It is dumbing down, but it's also, don't kid yourself, Norma. There were times when we were pretty dumb before as well. And I want to get to people. I don't want to dumbing down. Yeah. What it is also is critical thinking is done. We don't really, people were far more aware. Critical thinking is far more different. Far more. I was listening to an interview between Morandi from Iran and Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is a lovable oaf, the jadrul. He's the Archie Bunker, so to speak. Meat and potatoes, low-hanging fruit, nothing deep. But how can you explain October the 7th? You know, that kind of stuff. No depth. Can't black and white. Good guys, bad guys. But he's perfect. He set up Alex Jones for one of the greatest things. 1776. And Piers Morgan says, this is bloody beautiful. How are the numbers? Piers is a showman. He doesn't care who. When he used to get on Shmuley Botiak and junk yogurt, oh my God. I couldn't watch it because it just bored me. But a lot of people liked it because it was a lot of screaming. Edie Crowley says, the best thing about you, Mr. L, is you're real. Uh-oh. Thank you. Keeping it real. I also don't care, which is a very important thing in the world. I just don't care. I'd like you to like me. I want you to like me. But if you don't, you know what? Maybe another day. Maybe another day. My sense of self is not in any way redeemed or made plausible or viable by what somebody else thinks. Now, in politics, it's a different story. You got to like me. And I would do things completely. If I ran it now, I would do things completely differently. I would do things, I swear to you. Do you remember when the Queen met with a black woman in, I forget what, Chicago, and the black woman hugged the Queen? And they said, excuse me, you can't hug the Queen. And she said, excuse me, this is my house. and you're coming to my house, and I hug people, and the Queen is my guest. So if you don't like it, blow it out your. Oh my God, it was wonderful. I would make sure that I would sit down, and I would use everything that I can. I would just completely throw away this notion of CNN. It's over with. It's done. It's finished. It's through. It's so. I one time sat with Regis Philbin, best guy. He was born a day after me. Anyway, we always used to. And we talk about Sinatra and Rickles, and he liked Joey Bishop, and we're talking about this. And I'm trying to explain to him Hulu. It was like, and he said, Larry King, who's very good friends with us. I said, well, Larry King gets it. And I'm saying, but what you have to do, the thing that's the most important, you either have it or you don't, is people have to like you. And I don't know how to quantify that. If they like you, people would like Trump more if he would be himself. He's never been himself. That's not him. That's the public. But when he sits back, what I would do is, okay, I'm going to be you. Ask me a question. Ask me a question. And then I'll tell him. Just now, what he said about Joe Rogan, I like the fact that was the tease. I don't know. Maybe I should. Maybe I'll go on. I don't know. I don't ask people. But if I were Trump, I would say, let me ask you something, Lex. And by the way, your name is Friedman and is spelled Fridman. Okay, fine. It's a free country. And he's Russian. You know that, right? Okay. He's into the whole jujitsu thing and all that kind of jazz. And I would sit there and say, I don't think you realize this, Lex, how important it is. How many people you can say, when you look at those numbers and you say 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? When you say 1 million people, 1 million, I don't think 1 million people's ever, maybe cumulatively, but 1 million people, I don't know. Yeah, I've never had 1 million people listen to me. And believe it or not, if they don't, I understand. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. I can't help it. It's just one of those things. There are so many great things out there. So many musicians who are so. Best country music singer right now, alive today, right now, pound for pound, is Dale Watson. Dale Watson he's not number one. I don't know why. Because of politics, I have no idea. And he knows that, and I know that. Same thing if you're into certain things, if you're into different, there's you just have to accept it. You just have to accept certain things. But the thing about Trump, what he has to do is he has to talk about something. And when you get to talk about it, if somebody's listening to him, if he were to say something, he says, you know what the bad part about politics is? I'll tell you this much. Everybody pretends like they hate everybody. Hot Pocket says one of the best interviews Trump ever did was back in the 80s or 90s on Oprah. Even her crowd was totally on his side. Well, that might, well, remember, he wasn't, she also let him do it. She also let him be who he wants, and he was liked in those days. Wouldn't be like that today. First of all, Oprah wouldn't do it because Oprah is a tool. But aside from that, the world has changed. They wouldn't give him that same. Some of the greatest interviews I've ever heard. I'm gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh when I tell you this. Is Charles Manson. When Charles Manson was absolutely positively railroaded by Vincent Bugliosi, who was a psychopath. And you can read all about chaos or whatever. Charles Manson never killed anybody. Just going to tell you that. By the way, a true story, and I didn't know this until then. It was on years ago. I was talking to Vincent Bugliosi. Came in, and he did this book about impeaching the president or whatever it was for Bush. And he came through, and he walked in. And that first thing I said to him, the very first thing was I said, just because it was me being me. And I said, Charles Manson never killed anybody. And he said, well, Hitler never killed anybody. I said, you're comparing Charles Manson to Hitler? Who killed those people? Tex Watson did. Those people did. Tate LaBianca, they did it. Oh, he ordered them? Okay, do me a favor, Vince. Do me a favor. Kill that guy in the other room. You're not going to do it. You're going to kill. Anyway, I thought it'd be kind of funny going off into this kind of a surprise thing. He went berserk. Now I know why. It's like one of the things I did one time where I hit it off with Bo Diddley. Bo Diddley came in. And I said, your name is Angelo Cacciatore. You're a Sicilian when did you change your name to Bo Diddley? And I didn't know I had no idea about the Sicilian background at all. And he looked at me and he said, what are you talking about? I said, don't play stupid with me. I heard about that. I heard about you. I know what you do. So answer my question. And he looks at me and I kind of gave him a wink and he started laughing. And I said, look, you can laugh all you want. Because I don't crack up. We were like the best of friends. He said, nobody's ever done this before. I said, I know. This is fun. Let's have fun. And the thing about Trump is Trump's got to understand something. You got to sit there and say, listen, I hope this has gotten so much weird. We're into the name calling, and I realize that. This one's a liar. I've never met Kamala. I've never met her, but I bet you she's a nice person. I think she is. I mean, if you met her, I think she sincerely, I think her natural thing is to be nice. I don't think she's out trying to do anything wrong. I don't think she's trying to hurt anybody. I don't think she's an enemy agent. I don't think any of this stuff, but I think differently. And I worry about some stuff. And I'm here to talk about me. I don't want to talk about her. I want to talk about me. And I'm worried about something. I want to leave a legacy. I don't need this. I'm 78 years old, whatever. I want to leave something for my grandkids or for you. And I want to make an impact. And the thing I want to do is I want to make America strong so that you can do what you want, so that you and your family can enjoy what makes this country great, your ability to be free. I can't believe when people say that I believe in stuff. I've never said anything about abortion. I'm not for abortion, but I would never mandate women being sent to prison who give an abortion. Never said that. Nobody does. I meet with people all the time. Friends of mine, they said, we have to abolish abortion to prohibit it. I said, you want to put a woman in prison who gets an abortion? Because that's what you mean. I guarantee if you say it like that, people say, well, that makes sense to me. You got to rephrase it. Crime. Let me ask you something. Lori Cook knows something, but Lori says Shane Gillis in person is who the president is in real life. Okay. Shane Gillis. Yes. Shane Gillis, by the way, is he's one of these. It's funny how lately there's been this resurgence in, he was shut out of SNL. Interesting. But going back to this, I see people all around me and I don't even know where to start. And I talk to you about this and I talk to folks and I listen to people who talk about things. And I love hearing these. I was listening to a Lefties Losing It today. Always watch that. Always. And I think to myself, are these people crazy? They're not crazy. They're just faddish. They're just into fads. Who remembers the hippies? Anybody? Do you remember the hippies? Did you ever have somebody maybe like in 1969? I was like 11 years old, but I remember it. I remember people, older brothers, but do you remember real hippies? Hippies were, they didn't last that long. They were from, it all ended in 1969 with Manson. It all ended because Haight-Ashbury went completely bad and into drugs. But the whole notion of, hey, peace and flower power and all that, remember that? Woodstock and the people. It's just 3 days of fun and music, man. Playing the music and the bubbles. And do you remember that? Do you think these people are crazy? Laurie says Shane does a history podcast with Louis C.K. Smart. Poor Louis C.K. You know what Louis C.K. is known for? His self-pleasuring in front of people. I actually was listening to Joe um, Joe Rogan talking about this. I know, I heard about Louis C.K. You know, I don't know. Thinking, wait, excuse me. What did he do? Did he kill anybody? No, he pleasured himself in front of a few women. Okay. Are we talking about this really? You would think of it, Sarah Silverman. I know, I don't know. Louis, I think you're kidding me, right? You're all are worried about this. I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it. I think maybe we are. But let me go back to what I was trying to say. This is the whole thing. Hippies weren't crazy. That's kind of like the lefties are. They each one kind of helped the other. Hey, I went and painted a flower on my hair, man. Wow, I'm barefoot. I have bell bottoms and I'm not shaving under my arms. Wow. I've got a natural fro. Wow. I got a peace sign. I've got into colors. I'm wearing different patches on my it was a groove. Don't you remember this? All of a sudden, hey man, the peace sign. We're gonna, communes and we're gonna eat granola and okay. And then after man, that's it, gone, done, finished. 70s came along and it was different. But there was a time frame. Don't you remember how people? That's how these lefty folks, as you call them, are thinking. It's a part of their groove. They talk to each other like that. And this guy, Wallace or Matt Walsh or whatever it is, he gets these people and he goes, I can't believe my daughter is actually preferring a white doll versus an African American Pan Pacific Asian. I'm thinking, Matt, this is just a hippie. Haven't you met people like this? I knew a woman since Cannes. She was a kind of an ad exec type or TV media, whose son was like painting his toenails and like wearing a dress. And I remember I was looking at Mrs. Elm saying, what the hell is she so happy about? She thought it was the greatest thing because within her world in the Upper West Side, in her, that was great. She was an open mom. She was loving. Jonestown is deeper than I thought also. Lori Cuck, all of a sudden, is this funny or what? All of us, please do me a favor. Promise me, Lori, you watch other people's, like watch, no, I don't want to say Judge Napolitano, but anytime you go to a live stream, drop that in there. All of a sudden, Jamestown is deeper than I thought also. Have a bunch of them lined up, ready to go. You know, I've always been frightened by the size of Lincoln's ears. Enter, what? Sometimes I go to bed without saying goodbye. I'd rather be with you than the finest people in the world. It's not really things are far away. They're just too small. Just throw these things out, these seeming non sequiturs that will cause a host to say, what? It's like not trolling the classic way of trolling, but a better way. Evan Webb says, Jim Wright told me he felt American politics started to fall more when two parties stopped going to the same parties and places after fighting and debating on the floor. Jim Wright, is this his ex-speaker with the eyebrows and that sort of thing? I've got friends of mine, by the way, I'm sorry, I've got many friends of mine who are absolute who think Trump is a loon, and we're still friends. I think it goes to our friendship. I mean, and so some people, that's all they know. So there's Lori says, I love ya. You should do this as well in other different seeming non sequiturs. Now, understand, I'm going to go back to why this thing. I'm just watching this thing about Trump, Lex Friedman, and these people. I love this medium. I was watching today. This is my TV. Now, I will tell you this much. Recently, at night, we were going through the entire Mary Tyler Moore because it was from my youth. It's one of the most brilliant programming, and to watch how things develop. The Idiocy of Ted. Sue Ann she's a trollop, and she was evil, and she's like a psychopath. You know, she's evil, but with a smile. Rhoda kind of came and went. The Image of Mary. Mary was never about her. It's one of the best shows ever. Worst sets, worst everything. Ted Baxter. The Vatic Pressure, before Howard Beale, before Ron Burgundy, they had the episode where Walter Cronkite appears on the show, and it was just the most beautiful thing in the world. I sound like Marshall McLuhan. To be a citizen of the world, you must be a citizen, and you must be a student of the various media. You must understand this. You must know how things work. And this is how we get the word out. More people will watch Trump with Lex Friedman, because what he's doing is Lex is giving you the okay. Lex is saying this guy is worth. And the reason why you can't ask Kamala to go on is she doesn't intuitively understand the issues. She has never developed herself. She's always been the wrong person. There are some people who really, honestly understand themselves. They really do. Samantha Power, by the way, who you could say is corrupt, married to Cass Sunstein, really knows her stuff. People like Reagan, Nixon knew their stuff. Kissinger knew their stuff. You think Anthony Blinken knows his stuff? Do you think these people, do you know what that's like? No. Now, remember this, and you know this, there are three groups of people. There are people who are going to vote for Trump no matter what, the people who are going to vote for any Democrat no matter what, and there's these people in the middle. The people in the middle I want to talk about. But I'm going to say something to you, and I want you to remember something. Anything I tell you is a waste of time if the ballots and the voting is not secure. I don't want there to think somebody sitting back watching us now and saying, look at these bastards talk about that likability and Lex Friedman. I got 100,000 votes just ready to go. That's 7 states, 15 counties. I got the votes right here. I've got all of the battleground states. I've got them. Let me know. I'm gonna drop them in. Lori says, on this day, 1998, Google was born. Can you believe that? 1998, honey, Google was born. And nobody knew what the hell that was even about. We still don't know. We drive down, if you go down West Side Highway, around 20 whatever street, there's the new Google complex. It's huge. I mean, it is right around Chelsea area, kind of, sort of. It's just enormous. I had a friend of mine who, I haven't seen him in a while, but he worked for Google and invited Mrs. L and me to meet him. And we went to this, it was in like an old AT&T building. Google bought it was in Chelsea, the entire building. And the reason why they liked it was because they could put cables. And we went in there and it was like going into another world. But the thing that freaked me out was you don't have to work at a particular time. They want you to stay there all day long. They want you to stay there. Anything you need. They had sleeping rooms. You could bring your animals. You could they had little pods. They had little rooms to little conference rooms. But what blew me away, not literally, bruh, but was their food and their commissary. Anything you want. Over here we have omelets. Over here we have vegetarian. Over here we have name it. Name the food, and they've got chefs there all the time. Nobody following you. Nobody you have to check in. They brought a truck, a food truck, a delivery truck up through the service elevator, and it was serving soft serve ice cream with outside beautiful, terraces. I mean, it just was incredible. If you want to learn how to make an omelet, you can go over there. You want a back rub, what do you want? What do you need? It changed. And I don't know what these people did. I said, what do you do? Do you program? What do you do? I don't know. But it was packed and huge. Fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me. And the difference between me and other people is that when I don't know something, I want to find it out. To other people, they say, well, since I don't understand it, it must not be that important. No, there's nothing that burns them, that makes them understand. I love the psychology of elections. I love it. It's about human beings. It's not about who's better, no, nothing to do with it. And Trump is not perfect, but I promise you, more people will like him because everybody has an uncle like him, a neighbor, a brother, a friend. He is the guy you want. When he's the security guard, the guy who's watching over, the guy who says, well, that's Jerry. He's a little odd, but he does a good job. Trump is not odd. He's just kind of, we like the way he seems so independent, and it's that aloofness. And also, if Trump was not a serious threat to the left, nobody would feel this. Nobody felt this way about Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, because Marco Rubio never was really a threat of anything. Trump is a threat to everything those rat bastards believe in. And that's the way that is. It's all personal. Now, my friends, a couple of personal things too for you. I waited until the end, but it would mean a lot to me if you would care more about the future and your family and understand a couple of things. Number one, on the 26th of November, yours truly will be. Have you ever been to one of these before? No. Stand-up comedy? Hardly. It's different. It's, I don't know what you want to call it. People ask questions. We have cards. We have this. We got some music. It's 26 at the Cutting Room here in New York. That's the way that goes. Next. The most important thing, like I said, for you in the event of real, hitting the fan, is emergency food and being able to survive the squalor and the problems that are associated with disaster. And that's why preparewithlionel.com is so critical for you to be a part of. Preparewithlionel.com. Right now, there's a $300 deal for a mega 3-month emergency food kit. It's the sale of sales. Preparewithlionel.com. Just look at it. Just review it. Look at what's available. Your mind will be blown, bruh. Literally or figuratively. Also, our good friends at mypillow.com, promo code Lionel, mypillow.com/Lionel. Or call 800-645-4965. What do I have to tell you about these great and wonderful people? What do I have to tell you? They still have the Labor Day sale. They're still doing this. Employee pricing, mattress toppers, bed sheets, towel sets, dish towel. Go down the list. mypillow.com, simply the most wonderful people. And to you, dear friends, to you lovable lugs, you wonderful freaks, you dangerous folks, I thank you. I thank you all tremendously. Lori Cuck, you were magnificent. Evan Webb, thank you. Hot Pocket, Edie Crowley, Norma Lutz or Lutz, and she capitalizes her last name. Be aware of that. Raul Rodriguez, thank you. And let me see. Ryan. I'm just as Ryan. Crypto Domini, a.k.a. Big Dick from Chi-Town, and Barry Taylor, thank you so much for not what you do, Barry, but for what you appear to do, what you seem to do, what it looks like you're doing. And I mean that sincerely. All right, friends. We will see you later. Have a great and glorious day. See you tonight at 7 p.m. And also, I got some stuff dropping during the day, so make sure you're always subscribed to Lionel Nation. Make sure you hit that bell and little notification to be notified of live streams and new videos. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. See you tonight at 7. And don't forget the Monkey's Dead. The show's over. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have a special. Mrs. L has a live stream on her Lynn's Warriors channel at 5 p.m. So make sure you subscribe to her as well. See you then. And don't forget, the Monkey's Dead. Show's over. See you. Ta-ta.